Welcome to the MLB Slate Breakdown. I'm Jason Gilbo. With me is Brenton Hyden. Taking a look at today's 7-game slate. We do have some weather concerns for most of these games on the night slate. Could be like a 4 or 5, or maybe 4.5, 5.5 game slate.
Yeah, it looks like there might be weather concerns for like 3 of these games, so could make this already not very good slate even worse.
Yeah. The first one here, Washington, Baltimore. This has some rain in it. And as always with Washington, you never know, regardless of how heavy the rain is or how far out it is.
Yeah, there's going to be like a drop of rain and they're going to like delay the game. And then like 6 hours later, I'm like, we're just going to go ahead and postpone it.
Yeah. But if this game plays, we got Gio Gonzalez, Andrew Kashner on the hill. Gio, he's 10-2 tonight on DraftKings. He's been scuffling a little bit of late here, but I think he's an interesting GPP option to say the least.
Yeah, he's a guy I have interest in, especially given his price in the matchup. There's not a whole lot in over the last couple games that he's done that leads me to think that he's going to continue to struggle. Most of his batted ball data and things like that look okay. And this is a Baltimore team that, well, they just suck. That's pretty much all it comes down to. I mean, they're just terrible. They're one of the worst offenses in baseball against lefties. It's a pretty good spot for him, assuming the weather holds. I mean, they strike out like 22% of the time, like sub 30% hard contact rate. Everything lines up to him being a good option here, and at that price, I'd be willing to take the risk.
I'm with you, and especially because like Charlie Morton up top is not a complete lock tonight with him kind of pitching away. I know he bounced back a little bit against Kansas City, but you and I were talking about Morton yesterday. We'll talk a little bit more about him later on, but just don't think he's quite right now.
There is not a single pitcher on the slate that is a lock for a good game, period. It just comes down to that, period. There's not a single, maybe Stouffer's lasagna against the Mariners, maybe. I don't know. But, like, there's not a single safe pitcher on the slate, period.
No, there's really not. As far as bats go against, Gio, Machado's always the guy, especially now he's back below 5K. I take a look at him, but I mean, he hasn't been playing particularly well of late, and still, like, I think there are a couple other shortstop options, but as always, Machado is a guy who can break a slate.
Machado or maybe Trey Mancini, and that'd be about it. Like Mancini at 3,200 on DraftKings is cheap enough to consider as a value option if you're going to be fading Gio.
Yeah. More looking at the other side of things here with Washington against Kashner. Kashner guy this year allowing a 368 WOBA, 250 ISO to lefties. More fly balls to lefties, which obviously bodes well for this lineup. I'm going back to the well here.
Yeah, I'm all in on some Washington bats. I love Adam Eaton and Juan Soto at the top of that lineup. Bryce Harper, obviously, a good option if you're wanting to pay up. Even though he's more fly balls and more hard contact, or actually just more fly balls to lefties, I think Rendon is one of the top third base options on the slate. He's on a hot streak right now. One of the guys in this lineup that's 404 WOBA, 176 ISO, and 41% hard contact against sinkers. And one of the guys that actually puts it in the air a decent amount, like with only a 42% ground ball rate and a really high contact rate too. So I absolutely love him, even though I do prefer the lefties. Wilmer Defoe at the bottom of that lineup, someone that I do have a little bit of interest in too, but he's been alternating good and bad games, and he had a good one yesterday, so he's probably going to put up a dud today.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about this lineup is there's just kind of a little bit of everything. Like Eaton's price dropped. He's only 4.3, Soto's 4.6. Like, outside of Harper, this is a pretty cheap lineup to get exposure to, at least in the mid-range.
Yeah, and even Turner. Turner's been hot recently, too. I hate that he's projected to bat towards the bottom of that lineup, but he's still a decent option there.
Yeah, coming off a big night, too.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on here, you got Milwaukee and Pittsburgh. This is another weather game. I think this one looks a little bit more of a risk to be canceled, but you got Brent Sutter taking on Chad Kuhl. Keep an eye on the lineups here. Travis Shaw's been day-to-day. Austin Meadows has been day-to-day, so a couple of names that we've been talking about lately that have been out of the lineup. But This game was a little bit disappointing last night, at least on my Brewers side. Pirates side. I thought we were going to get a little bit more action. Oh, wait. No, never mind. Screw that.
I was gonna say I was all in on Freddie.
No, I know. For some reason,
disappointing.
I'm thinking of whoever just faced Trevor Williams. I was a little bit disappointed, I guess.
Didn't they roll out? It was the Brewers. They rolled out like some weird lineup against them.
Yeah, that was it. That was Monday, right?
Probably.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So very cool here. I definitely don't mind a couple of bats on both sides, but this is a game that I'm not expecting to really play. Actually,
I will say this: if you only get like one lefty or two lefties in that lineup, that'd be Yelich and Thames. Cool is an interesting value pitching option at 7,200. There is some strikeout potential for him here. He has struggled against lefties, which is always a concern. And if you get Shaw, Yelich, and Thames in there and VR, then I'm definitely not interested in him. But he's a guy, if this game does play and you only get like Yelich and Thames, I think you can consider him in tournaments as an SP2 option.
Yeah, and this is something that you caught on to, over the last few starts were cool, is that slider usage. We talked about it against Cincy, and he threw it 31% of the time against Cincy, and I'm curious if that continues.
It's working for him, and if it's going to continue to work for him, then I'm definitely interested in using him. Like I said, he's just a tournament option here for me, but this entire Brewers offense really struggles against sliders.
Yeah, they really do. And, the only guy that I kind of really have interest in would be taking a shot on Thames or Yelich. Like you said, it's the lefties. If Shaw does get in the lineup, I still don't think I'm on him just because, he's a guy who's kind of battling an injury. I'll wait a little bit.
Yeah, Thames is pretty much the only guy that I'm interested in hitting the ball really hard and really far recently. I mean, he had the 2 home run game a few days ago, but outside of that, hasn't done a whole lot over the past 10 games, but the batted ball stuff is there for him.
Yeah. And as usual against Coy, don't have a ton of interest in like the right-handers.
Nope.
So, Pittsburgh side of things here, Sir just continues to baffle hitters, I guess, by throwing 62 miles an hour out there. I don't get it. But I do think there's obviously some good stuff coming for targeting against him. I don't mind a couple of bats here, especially the righties. I like whatever catcher gets in the lineup. I think they're interesting options, but Starling Marte is a guy I do like here quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't know that I really want to pick on Suter here too terribly much. I would be looking at like the Martes, David Freese, Cervelli, or Diaz if he gets in the lineup, but I'm not really targeting him here. And I mean, it doesn't really interest me that much anyways, considering this game probably won't play.
I've lost too much money, I think, picking on him the last 2 starts.
Yeah, he's a guy like I was on the fence about putting him in the pitching article for today because like I just couldn't come up with like a 5th guy, but man, I couldn't bring myself to do it because like I knew he was going to get shelled if I wrote him up, but if I didn't, he was probably going to have a good outing. And like 20 innings against the Pirates in his career only has like a 1.8 ERA, so he's cheap.
I don't get it. He's pulling some voodoo out, and I don't get it.
I don't either. I'm not going to try to rely on it. If I were playing a ton tonight, I might have a little bit of exposure, but I'm just passing on that whole situation.
Yeah. Next thing here, we got Seattle in New York. Jonathan Loaisiga taking out Felix Hernandez. I definitely don't mind picking on Hernandez here. Like you said, what'd you call him? Joey Lasagna?
Stouffer's Lasagna.
Vegas numbers, indicate this guy is obviously in line for, a pretty decent outing here. Good shot to win. We saw obviously what German did last night. I hate picking on the Mariners still.
Yeah, I really do too. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot of ways to go, and this guy is going to be popular after putting up a really good outing his last time out. I mean, he's fine. He's 8,300. Again, it's not safe by any means, but I mean, he is a guy we did see strikeouts, in the lower levels of the minors. He never pitched in AAA. So, like, I don't know how much I buy into the 30% strikeout rate from his first outing and the rest of the stuff. But again, I don't like picking on the Mariners, but we may not really have much of a choice here.
Yeah, I mean, 8,300, like this is, I mean, for me, I think it's pretty clear it's just a GVP slate. I think cash games, if someone ends up being chalk, you can go with that. I don't think we're going to get one chalk arm, maybe David Price, but I don't think we're going to get like a guy who's going to be over 50% cash, 60% cash games.
Charlie Morton, I think, will be.
Probably. If that's the case, I'm just,
That's the case. I'll stack the Rays, but we'll get into that later.
But yeah, viable GPP option, and same thing with the Mariners. I mean, if you want to roll some bats and GPPs, it's fine. But I think there's still other options that we're going to get to a little bit that I'd rather go for offenses.
Yeah, I'm not looking to attack the lasagna tonight, but like if you wanted to get super contrarian and try to hedge on potential ownership, Haniger, Cruz, yeah, that'd be about it.
It'd be those guys. I have more interest in the Yankees side. I like the lefties here. Didi Gregorius is one of my favorite plays on the nights. Same with like a Greg Bird and Gleyber Torres. I mean, dude just continues to mash, and I don't think I can really fade him at his current price. Like I'm just going to keep riding it.
Yeah, it's really tough to fade that price. I mean, he should be like a 5K player, and he's just not. Continues to absolutely rake. I do prefer the lefties here, given that Felix has been just so bad against lefties dating back to last season. 358 WOBA allowed, 218 ISO, and this is a lefty friendly park. It is Didi's month. It is one of his alternating hot and cold months, and he is hot. And I do really, really like him in the spot. And then you mentioned Greg Bird is interesting. Aaron Hicks, a guy almost 200 ISO against righties dating back to last season. He's a very streaky player, and he's been hitting the ball really, really well recently. And I really love him at that 4K price tag.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm fading the big names again and going with some of these other guys here.
Yep.
Moving on, Boston, Minnesota, David Price versus Lance Lynn. David Price has pitched well. I don't mind him here in the spot. I do worry, but there are a couple bats I think can still get to him. But overall, I don't mind him at his price.
Yeah, it's a price play for Price. It's not a terrible matchup. This Twins offense is decent against lefties, but I talked a little bit about it in the pitching article. Like, there's not a whole lot that I'm really worried about with this offense. I mean, you're going to get like Eddie Rosario, who is good against lefties, but like this team as a whole still striking out almost 25%. 84 WRC plus, not a whole lot of hard contact. It's a fine spot for him. Again, he's just not safe because it's David Price.
Yeah, like I know, he's obviously pitched well over his last few starts, but I mean, it's still, like you said, it's David Price. We're not going over a 3-game sample size with him. There are a couple of guys that worry me because they do hit that cutter and sinker well. You mentioned Rosario, he's one guy. Eduardo Escobar's been swinging the bat well again. And even some guys like, Robbie Grossman concern me a little bit just because of their numbers against that cutter. But if Price has it going tonight, it doesn't worry me too much.
No, I'm not terribly worried about, like, especially at that price. He's definitely worth the risk.
Yeah, he is. Rosario, Escobar are kind of the two bats I would use against him here.
Yep.
Anyone else?
Nope.
Boston, would expect them to be a popular offense here tonight. It's the lefties here for me, especially at some of those price tags like Moreland and Devers. I wish I used Devers as my home run call yesterday.
You should have.
I really like Moreland 4-1, Devers 3-9, and obviously like Benintendi 5K. Those are kind of my 3 favorite options here.
How dare you not talk about Brock Holt?
Oh, well, at least he wasn't projecting the lineup that I looked at.
He's in the projected lineup that I'm looking at, but he's a guy I have a ton of interest in, especially against Lance Lynn's like 4-seam fastball. It's not good at all. Brock Holt 452 WOBA 288 ISO 94% contact rate against it. He's always a guy that I have interest in when he gets in the lineup because he's always cheap. and he has multi-position eligibility. I love the Boston lefties here. Benintendi, Mitch Moreland down to 4,100. Really, really interesting. Benny's at 5K. It's a little tough, but like he's still been pretty hot over his last 10, 15 games. So I don't hate taking that shot. And even someone like Jackie Bradley down towards the bottom of the lineup, really cheap and at least doing a little bit more over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, 3K, I can take a shot there. Like you said, he's had a couple homers of late, has some extra base hits. Yeah, it is what it is at this point with Jackie Bradley. You got to give him in these right matchups, and I think this is a right one.
Yep.
So, of course, like if you want to round out with Martinez or Betts, it's fine. They're just Betts price tags 5.9 is a little pricey.
I'm sticking to the lefties.
Yeah, me too. Tampa and Houston here. Charlie Morton take on Nathan Eovaldi. Morton's a guy just bounced back a little bit in that last start, but overall just has looked a little bit off.
Did he really bounce back though?
Compared to his last couple of starts,
he had strikeouts, but he still gave up 3 earned runs and still walked 4 hitters. Like that's still not a good game in my eyes. Like I know he put up solid numbers. I mean, I know he had 9 strikeouts, but still 4 walks and 3 earned runs is not a bounce back game in my eyes. And I still think he's hurt. Like he's not throwing his curveball hardly at all.
Yeah, that's the thing that we were going to bring up. It's the usage of his pitch type. But I mean, for me, the walks are still an issue. Like you said, it's 10 over his last 2 starts. But to get 9 against a Royals team, in that weather, in that ballpark at that time, I feel like it was a bounce back game considering what we saw out of him in Texas. Still not comfortable with it, but I feel like it was an improvement.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, like I said, 9 strikeouts is good. And this is a spot where he should be able to rack up some strikeouts again, even though this Rays offense has been a little bit hot recently. Like they're not a basement dwelling offense like they have been for the majority of the season. Like if you look, they rank now they're 19th overall against right-handed pitching this season. It's not terrible. They're just below league average, 98 WRC plus. I mean, they're pretty much tied with the Nationals. They're sandwiched in between like the Nationals and the Cardinals in offense against righties this season. Like he's far from safe. He's going to be a popular option, I'm sure, because Houston pitchers are always popular. He's pricey. I think in tournaments you stack against him. I think if you're playing cash games tonight, you roll him out.
Yeah, I like that theory here. The Rays, got Kiermaier back. I think this is an interesting line because they're all basically under like 3,500 outside of like Duffy and Bowers and Cron and people like that. And Cron's a guy I like here just because he matches up kind of well with Morton. He hits that curveball well, 260 ISO. I know it's only a 69% contact rate, but we've seen Cron really do some damage, and I have a lot of interest in him. And I know the hard contact's up to lefties, but I kind of have more interest in the righties. Like the Ramos and Crohn's, and I think Duffy's interesting. Adames, if I want to go that route.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'd be looking. I do like Cron potentially over Bowers as like a price play, but I mean it's only $100 on DraftKings, so it's not that big of a deal. But Kevin Kiermaier back in that leadoff spot is definitely interesting. I really like the spot for him. Especially if that curveball usage is going to be down. It's a pretty good spot for Kiermaier, who just absolutely rakes against sinkers, like 364 WOBA. Even Duffy has good numbers against sinkers, which dating back to last season, Morton's throwing like 36% of the time.
Yeah, I'm with you. And it's something that no one's going to be on tonight.
Yes, exactly.
Houston, I don't really have a ton of interest here because there's just not enough lefties for me to get excited about.
Yeah, I don't know that I want to pick on Nasty Nate too terribly much. Guy just very high velocity fastball. I know he struggled in his last start, but and that was against the Yankees. Struggled a little bit against the Mariners and Nationals as well, but it's one of those things again. Like if you want to roll out Houston in cash games like Reddick, Marwin, McCann, you can do that. I'm taking a stand, and I'm just gonna fade Houston when they're at home and when they're going to be popular. And it's a short slate, so I think they're going to be popular.
Yeah, I'm with you. None of these guys are terribly great against a high velocity fastball, especially the guys that we're looking at. Um, Sliders, nothing much really going here either. There's just nothing that really stands out. I mean, I know we target lefties, but none of these guys, even against the pitch mix that he throws, is really that great.
Brian McCann, 268 ISO, 76% contact rate. That'd be about it.
Yeah, and I don't know. Just once again, like it's hard. It's been hard to get excited about Houston outside of a couple times this year.
Yeah, and I mean it is interesting. McCann down to 3,200 on DraftKings, and he would have caught Evaldi at one point in his career, wouldn't he?
If he did, it would have been in New York.
That's what I'm looking at. Yeah, he would have caught him. He would have. So there you go. You can get a catcher versus a pitcher that he caught.
We do like that. Next game here, we got Texas and Kansas City. Austin Bivens-Dirks taking on Jake Junis. You joked around yesterday about Jake Junis being the guy that got into your article well ahead of time.
Yeah, and it comes down to this. Like Jake Junis, probably not a very good pitcher. Jake Junis, a very risky option today. That being said, if his slider is working, this is exact same thing we said against Oakland last time out. If his slider is working, he's a great option. If his slider is not working, he's going to get shelled. And his slider was not working against Houston. It was not working against Oakland. Texas really struggles against sliders, and if you go back and look, the games where Junis actually had like strikeout outings, like 6 or more strikeouts, he had like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 swinging strikes with his slider. Whenever he was getting shelled, he wasn't getting swinging strikes with the slider. So it's one of those things. Unfortunately, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know ahead of time if his slider is going to be working for him. But if it does, he's probably going to have a good game here.
Yeah, I mean, the opportunity is there for him. It definitely comes down to that slider because it does also just help with his other pitches. But if that slider's not working, his other pitches have just been absolutely awful this year. You have 4 of them, over 40% hard contact rates, which is always very scary. But the Texas team, I mean, against sliders, we talked about it, they're just not good. I know getting Beltre back in lineup is a better contact bat, but it's really only him and Profar that have the contact, and they're not doing anything with it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's no one that really stands out for Texas, which is also a little concerning because if Junis doesn't happen, it's like, crap, maybe I did want some exposure, but I don't see really anywhere to go that I'm excited about.
No, I'm not really excited about anyone here. Maybe like a Chu just because he's been hot.
Yeah, that would be it. But that 4.9 price tag went up a couple $100.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not terribly thrilled. I do have a little interest in some of the Royals bats just because I felt like we've kind of been limiting offenses here. There hasn't been a lot. This is like a slate where we don't want to completely use these pitchers, but don't want to completely attack them either.
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot of like full stacks that are like really that interesting. There's one-offs sprinkled everywhere, but the Royals are going to be popular against Bivens-Dirks, and probably for good reasons. I don't think this guy is very good. Struggles dating back to last season, 359 WOBA allowed to righties, 339 to lefties, 208 ISO to righties. Pretty good spot. He relies basically on a really low velocity, four-seam fastball, slider, and a little bit of a curveball. There's some guys that hit these pitches really, really well, especially that fastball, like Whit Merrifield, Alex Gordon, Moustakas, Salvador Perez, all really, really good options here.
Yeah, I'm with you, and they're all cheap. Moose is only 4K. You mentioned Gordon, who's moved up into the lineup, and he's 3-1 on DraftKings. I know what Merrifield would target more against, left-handers, but a guy who's fairly cheap. He's got second base, outfield eligibility wherever you want to use him. And going back to last year, Bivens-Dirks is a guy, 359 WOBA, 208 ISO, 41% hard contact to right-handers.
Yeah, so it's a good spot. Depending on like what other outfielders get in the lineup, like Abraham Almonte, if he's in the lineup, is a little bit interesting against that low velocity fastball. He's a guy really, it's only 19 batted ball events, but 736 WOBA, 737 ISO, 94% contact rate. He just rakes against that pitch. Interesting value option. Paolo Orlando, if he's in the lineup, is an interesting value option. But like, I really like the Moustakis, Alex Gordon, and Salvador Perez stack.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I think that Royals back half, like, they're all really, really cheap. And I think if you're trying to get some Coors exposure and fitting in some guys there, then, and still paying up a little bit and pitching, that's kind of where I would go for the deep, deep value.
Yeah, it's just a shame they're all really, really bad.
Yeah, they're not good players, but if you need to punt a spot, I don't hate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Mets and Rockies here. Chad Bettis for Seth Lugo. Let's start with this Mets side here. Still reasonable prices for a team in Coors. We've gotten that kind of most of this year. Bettis is a guy, allowing some power to both sides of the plate, hard contact up. I don't mind picking on him here a little bit.
Yeah, I'm all in on picking on him with some of these Mets bats that are really cheap. Like Brandon Nimmo continues to be just an excellent option. Against Bettis is really low velocity, like 90-mile-an-hour four-seam fastball. It's only 18 batted ball events, but 727 ISO, 61% hard contact rate. That's probably going to play pretty well in Coors where balls, fly a little bit. But Asdrubal Cabrera, really, really good option here. Conforto, Frazier, back to the well, Dominic Smith, who has raked against that pitch. Devin Mesoraco, someone that I have a lot of interest in behind the dish. I love the Mets again here in this spot, and I hate my life for loving the Mets.
Especially, you've been so anti-Mets offense up until this Coors series. Like, you've been leading that train.
Because they're terrible.
They are. But what do you expect? It's the Mets.
That is true.
So, yeah, I'm going back to the well. We've seen Coors play like Coors of late. It's hard to not like him. These guys here, especially at some of these prices that you're getting, the Mesoraco 3.9 is reasonable, Dominic Smith 4K, but even like Asdrubal Cabrera at 4.4 is not a bad price at all.
No, and we haven't had like the Asdrubal Cabrera breaks the slate game in a while. Like, I feel like it's coming at some point soon.
Yeah, I do too. Rocky side of things here, apply total rate at 6. Yeah, I don't mind some of these bats. We've obviously seen Seth Lugo pitch pretty well. But, finds a couple guys that hit that curveball well. I don't mind going back to with Charlie Blackmon. I feel like it's like you said with Cabrera. I feel like it's been a while that Blackmon's had a monster game, but against that curveball, Blackmon 471 with 321 ISO, 46% hour contact, and a 77% contact rate.
Yeah, pretty good numbers there for him on that. I don't even hate like Aaron Nato and Cargo and Story in the spot. Like Story, good numbers against curveballs, just not good contact rates, like below 60%. But when he makes contact, it's hit really hard and a good contact with it. So I don't hate going there. Tom Murphy, in the lineup potentially, he's an interesting guy behind the dish. I don't know. I hate picking on Seth Lugo. Like I'm definitely not using him, but like I don't know that I want to spend like a lot of salary picking on him in this spot.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you because these guys are not cheap. That's the problem. I mean, like I said, outside the curveball, these guys do hit that fastball and sinker relatively well, which is nice to see. But like you said, after Blackmon's, a couple ISO numbers stand out against the curveball, but there's also a lot of swinging misses.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but usual suspects there. Let's go home run calls. Who do you got?
Gregorius and Moustakis.
Oh, I like it. I'm gonna go Mitch Moreland and Juan Soto. That's it for us. Be sure to keep an eye on weather throughout the day. Things will be obviously changing as we get closer to first pitch. We'll be back. I think it's a small slate, but we'll be back on Friday. And good luck.
Good luck tonight.